Hello, viewers, and welcome to another edition of Reminiscences. Today, our guest is Alhaji Sidi Hamidu Ali, who is a veteran journalist and a writer, and at one point in his life, a politician. Sir, I'd like to welcome you to Reminiscences.
Thank you very much.
And start by looking at your background. You were born in Kano, as we know, but somehow early in life you found your way in Ghana. And so I'd like to understand how this transition took place.
Okay, what happened is my late father, Alhaji Sidi, from Sherifai in Ghana, was a major supplier of cows for the British soldiers from the time of the Second World War. But you know, at that time, the chief of staff of the West African Army was based in Accra, Ghana. In fact, most of our soldiers were trained there. I remember like Hassan Katana and others were trained before we set up our own district. So this is what happened. We all went there. He took our mother, and so on and so forth. But at a certain stage, the late Bello Dandawo, who together with Madam Sani Kontagora and Madam Isa Keita and Junaidu from Katna, were sent to Ghana at Gold Coast at that time as broadcasters, because so that the soldiers, most of them speak Hausa. You know, Hausa is a language you find almost everywhere in the world. So they needed Hausa speaking to speak to soldiers. So they took these 4 people to Gold Coast. So it was while we were there, Bello Dandago told my father, look, one day, and that was in 1944, one day, Ghanaians will rise and ask all non-Ghanaians, because from our interaction with them, they are not happy. And this happened in 1959. When Brucia said all non-indigenous, of course the targets were Nigerians, because the Nigerians were the highest number. Of course, anywhere you find Africans, Nigerians are 20. That's how we came back. Bello Dandago brought me back and put me in Shawuchi Elementary School. And this actually influenced our love for journalism.
So did you start schooling in Ghana rather than in Kano?
No, in Kano. I started school in Shawuchi Elementary School, 1945. 1949, we went to Kano Middle School. And one of my classmates was late General Murtala Muhammad. We were classmates and so on and so forth. That's why we went to school. But later, I went back to Ghana after this thing.
So why did you go back to Ghana? Is it for higher education?
For higher education. And unfortunately, I got involved in politics to the extent I was able to meet Kwame Nkrumah. So when a lot of students were arrested, of which I was one of them, expelled to secondary school for involved in politics, he opened a secondary school called Ghana Secondary School for all children who were expelled because of their political involvement. It was from there I went to the United States.
So were you in the politics of Ghana, were you in Nkrumah East and therefore a part of the movement?
100%. One of the highest, because it got to a stage Nkrumah would not do anything when I was not there. In fact, one of the reasons why I went to university in 1962, that's how Nkrumah arranged for me to go to school abroad and send me to London. That time Kwesi Ama was the Ghana High Commissioner in London. But I couldn't feed, because at that time you need to have A level before you enter British University. That's how he arranged for me to go to New York, where you can do 6 months, what they call high school equivalency. If you pass, you get admission.
So how was your experience in the US then? I mean, this was in the 1960s.
I was in the US when the Congo situation was taking place. And we have a Pan-African Student Organization, PASWA. I was the chairman of the political committee. We demonstrated, which led America to pencil me down as one of those, whatever it is,
Undesirables.
undesirables. And when Fidel Castro came to New York, 1962, after the Bay of Pigs, now despite his position of head of state, he decided to go and stay in a hotel in Harlem, which is the black people's. And we Africans would have formed committee to be like his security. So the Americans were not very happy with me. And that is how, during the Civil War, I was identified as one of those people and invited to join federal service by late man Hamidu, with the support of MD Yusuf.
Did you finish your US education?
I did. I have in fact, this is one of the special discipline made for me. I did finish it, got my BA, and so on and so forth.
Yes. And yet you didn't go back to Ghana.
I went back to Ghana.
Yeah.
I know I was in Ghana. In fact, I went to Ghana after the coup.
But then Nkrumah has been removed.
Have been removed. And we became suspicious that they think Nkrumah, because when I left New York, I had wanted to go to Guinea before going back to Ghana. But the Guinean government did not allow us. I'm not sure. But
because Nkrumah by then was in exile in Guinea?
In Guinea.
Yes.
I had wanted to go there. But the government of Guinea refused to give us visa. Maybe they were not sure whether we are actually pro-Nkrumah or were agent of the foreign, whatever it is. Because Nkrumah was issuing statements, books were being written about him, which become real threat to the military. So they were not easy to allow people to go there.
So how was your experience in Ghana when you went back from the US?
Well, when I went there, we had problem. They were not, because you know most of African countries, and you still do that, they depend solely on what they were told by America in the name of advising them of security and so on. For example, see the number of Americans and others who come to here as election observers. Did we ever allow our own to go there? See what happened on the Trump, where even after the election, he could get people to attack National Assembly and to deny that he was defeated, and got angry with his deputy because the deputy said they have lost. Said no, they haven't lost. Yet no African leaders ever thought the idea, say, this democracy we are learning from them, they should also invite our people to go there.
So, still, were you expelled from Ghana before you came?
Not only expelled, we were arrested and detained. Myself and my younger brother, Sraju. It was Adegore, who was the High Commissioner, who fought and insisted, and of course the government of Nigeria would not allow its citizens at that time to be treated. That's how both of us were arrested and detained. Because we were very active, we were involved, and you cannot blame it in countries, developing countries. They don't have the mechanism or even training. You appoint some people in certain offices because of their relationship with some people in government, instead of their own having the know-how. So you have this type of problem.
So you said somewhere that you were invited to come back to Nigeria.
Yes.
This was under the civil war had started.
Yes, I started.
And you are an experienced propagandist.
I don't know whether it is.
So you joined the Ministry of Information.
I joined the Ministry of Information. But as it happened, when we went for interview, MD Yusuf, who was head of special branch, That is the forerunner of the present DSS. Knew my writing, my involvement, my secretary. In fact, I was the chairman of the political committee of Pan-African Student Union.
Yes.
But in spite of the civil war, Jordan wanted me badly, MD Yusuf recommended me, but the civil service was reluctant, although my good friend Leslie Katago. So an office was created called Nigerian International Press Center on the leadership of late Nelson Otta. I was his deputy. Although we were partly on the information, but we were given free hand because we were receiving the foreign press and we were taking them to war, those liberated areas at that time, and so on and so forth. Before we opened the Kano liaison office, Kano was the first state on the Audubago to open an office in Lagos. So immediately after the Civil War, Audubago asked me to go there. So we moved to that place.
So essentially you are doing propaganda for the federal government?
Well,
the war
I don't know whether you call it federal. We try to defend because even as today, there are so many things which unfortunately is not doing right. Either the people has to do it, don't know it, or people given such a responsibility will not even like to hear on our side because they feel it's a threat to whatever it is. So we did this work.
Did you join politics when you moved to Kano? Because later on you were in the PRP,
Well,
you contested election and became a
I
member
don't want to say join politics. I was a patriot. I believe in policy of that like Kano, in the foreign state like Castro, like Lumumba, and so on and so forth. So in Kano, I wrote an article against the federal government. Not against, when you say the truth, at that time was decree, a special decree, any journalist who writes something could be arrested and detained.
This was under Gowon?
Under Gowon?
Yeah.
And he went on Obasanjo as well.
Yes.
Incidentally, I tested both Obasanjo and Gowon. So when I wrote that article, I was arrested and detained, sent to prison. It was while I was in prison, PRP was looking for personnel, and I was penciled down as a candidate. Abubakar Remi and late Aman Inwa were sent to me and arranged for me to be taken to hospital where they could pass the information that they are going to announce. So, but, I'm in detention. Even I've been convicted, there have been a different thing, and when I'm coming out, all of us are penciled down as enemies of state, and we have no date of release. Say no, they are sure when it's announced, I'll be released. And it was announced, and truly I was released. Remy and Amanin they were the one who came to Central Prison, Kano, and got us transferred. That's how we are. So I was put as a candidate. And what I would add here is, I was asked to contest election in Dambata. I'm not from Dambata, I'm from Derma, Kano City. But at that time, nobody looked at that. And the difference again with what we see now is, when I was taken there, and they said this is Malam Aminu's choice, people were giving money. They were happy. They are not asking the candidate to give them, which is different from what you have today. If today you announce yourself wanting to contest for a local government seat, you see how many hands will be stretching and expecting you to do something.
What kind of man was your leader, Malam Aminu Kano?
Malam Aminu Kano? Well, since you are Hausa speaking, let me give you one example. Malam Aminu Kano's father was Muhuti, that means deputy to Alhaji of Kano. So a musician came, was singing Malam Aminu Muhutin Kano. So after they finished, they came and greeted Malam Aminu Kano, expecting to be done. So Malam Aminu told him, "You say I'm son of Muhutin Kano." That is true. So I tell him the truth. If you have lied to me that Amala Aminu Kano who owns 100 houses or had to, I'll give you money. But because you told me what is the truth, why should I give you anything?
So you refuse to give him any.
You refuse to give him. He said it's not in nature. Say, but you lied. I know what you say is the truth. And my father was Muti. Assuming you tell me some lies, or you say Malam who had 10, 100 houses, 20 cars, farms, which I know I don't have, I'll give you for lying to me. So this is the type of man Malam Amin is. And one of the things we remember him, when we went to Uganda during the Peace Corps with Asika, we all went to Mala Aminu's room, the hotel, and surprisingly, Asika said he's not going back to his room. You sleep there.
This was when in Uganda? Was this during the peace talks?
During the peace talks.
You know, we lost the federal government.
Yes. One of our.
This was Opabi Asika, the governor of the Eastern region.
He was the target. Unfortunately, for some reason, he said he's not going back to the room. So that what happened.
Do you think the politics of today is different because we don't have people like Aminu Kano, people with those kind of principles?
Well, I don't think it's definitely that's different. Okay, let me tell you, Mala Aminu Kano, all he possessed was 5 sets of dresses. And people give him free. So if today you come and give him white, black, and red, you give him one set, the others you also give that away to somebody. He never lived with this. Mala Aminu Kano, on many occasions, there was no food in his house. Late Mala Musa, we call him Musa US, was the one who normally go to market, buy foodstuff, bring it to the house without the knowledge of Mala. But he would sit down like this.
But we heard stories of him also staying in big hotels in London.
But that is the federal government. If you go, for example, let me tell you, during the civil war, I was in the team of Nahoro, and we are traveling to counter the propaganda. Sometimes you see, I'm sorry, these so-called Biafrans, he will come with a bandage, the whole leg with blood everywhere. And there was nothing there. It will win sympathy, showing that what the Nigerian soldiers have done to him, blah, blah, blah. And people believe it. So we counter, for example, let me tell you, a 9-man delegation was sent on the leadership of Antonio Haro and the Ikoku. Luckily, I was the only Muslim in that delegation to go to Rome to brief the Pope at that time that the war taking place in Nigeria was not a religious war. We got there, we spent 9 days waiting for appointment to see the Pope. When the day was given to us, it was given, I believe, on Thursday at 5 o'clock. So our ambassador, Nigerian ambassador, John Garba, who happened to come from Kano, but a Christian, he led us. Now when we went there, they all lie down with the Pope putting his hand on their head, some sort of blessing. When it reached about 2 people to me, then hoping we will not cause any scandal, the ambassador quickly said, Your Lordship, this man is a Muslim. He hugged me, he said, all the same. So I had more honor. The Pope hugged me. That's why one cardinal from Anambra State, he was the highest African in the Vatican, was always remembering me for that. Of course, I would have lied down because we came to to explain to the Pope there was no religion in what was going on, to explain to him. So he said, he put his hand around me and said, they did not have that honor I had from the Pope. From the time we flew out Rome to Lagos, They were talking about that.
Let's go back to your career in politics.
Yes.
You are a well-known social critic. You criticize politicians. You have been writing, I know, for a long time. Yet you are also an elected member. You won election from Ambata, as you say. Twice in the House of Representatives. What have you done that justify that position you had? What have you done that is different from what we know politicians do?
Well, number one, I think even in Parliament, I was different. You see, I was always conscious that I swore with the Holy Quran. I was very conscious of that. Of course, in our case, I was a member of Public Account Committee. I was a Public Account Committee member. And most members, even at that time, when the people have complained, they compromise and collect money. The biggest thing I did, which if you read the recent statement of the National Accountant of Nigeria, what do you call them? Anan. When you read what they said, we were 8 people. In fact, it was in my house, my room, that we planned how to create Anan. Because ICANN was the only organization. So, in England, in Scotland, there are 6 national organizations, accountant organizations. Why here in Nigeria it's only 1? So we championed the cause. And they did everything. One day, MKO Abiola and another accountant, Akintola Williams, and others, the supporters of ICANN, I told them the only person you can stop is Sidi Ali. It is in his, So they came. Abiola came, I was living on the 7th floor on Block E.
This is Lagos?
In the Lagos.
1004?
Yes. The next room was the Gogo Princeway from River State, now late, who was also an accountant. How do they get me? So he called me from his room. That Abiola is here to see you. Say, Abiola, how can Abiola come see me? No, I don't believe. He said, you want to come? I said, no, I'm not coming. But we were able to succeed to pass that in the House of Reps, but was blocked in the Senate by one Senate accountant, Definoni, now late. He was able to mobilize, so they locked him. But luckily for us, President Babangida signed that into law a day before he left to stay, stay aside.
Step aside.
Step aside. He signed the last giving it into a law. That's why ICANN went to court to challenge it that he wasn't the president when he said. I said, no, he was president. After the time he reached Niger, he did not resign. He was only stepping aside. He could have come back anytime. That's why they lost the case. We did that. Number 2, there was a time I was traveling to London. Somebody came and asked me, are you Honorable Sidi Ali? I said, yes. He said, I'm one of those members of the Nigerian Airways who were dismissed in 1982. But we brought our case to you, and you got all of us returned to Nigerian Airways, and I was posted to London. I'm now retired, but I'm still. So how many days are you going to do in London? I said, I think between 2 and 3 days. He said, no, take full responsibility. Please, don't say no. At that time, we were no more in Parliament. But these are some of the things we did, because I knew how some of our people compromised their position. I was a member of Public Account Committee. I was a member of Finance Committee. I was a member of Appropriation Committee. I've served in about 5 members. So I think that was different. And I'll give you a book I wrote, a statement I made in the House of Reps after he won the second time, listing the number of people who were not re-elected or their party did not nominate them, showing their performance. That's, unfortunately, recently I saw the Senate president was complaining bitterly about the number of people who could not come back.
You are familiar with many Nigerian leaders. Even the pictures on your wall show that. Why do you think we keep saying the problems of Nigeria is leadership? We had so many leaders. Murtala Mohammed, who was in school with you.
Abacha was my junior, for 4 years junior.
Babangida. All these are people you know. Can you give us an idea why things didn't work in spite of these leaders?
Well, I don't know. When you say didn't work, it depends how you translate or judge working. And secondly, you must also take into consideration the type of society we belong to, the thing we inherited, the cultural thing, and so on and so forth. Now, number one, if we had a military regime, most of the military regime were not elected. Even among themselves, to get leadership, unless someone sabotage the other in order to get there and do it. Now, I'll give you an example. But we, even the elected member, unfortunately, forgive me if I was a member from Katsina. He was elected because of the influence of his father-in-law. When we went to Lagos, he married a Kanuri woman, Mina woman, who was more polished, more educated than the wife he brought. Could you imagine the father-in-law came and told you, you never return to parliament, and he never returned. They block him. So this is the type of system, this influence, this. And two, many of our people, for example, let me tell you, when we fought for this Anan, we have Major General Abdulkadir referred to Abba Sidi. Abba Sidi was the chief accountant of the Nigerian army. The budget of the army at that time was almost bigger than some state government. Yet, they say he could not be a member of ICAN. A professor of mathematics from Calabar University took examination and he failed because ICAN was being run like a cabal, like every year they were passing only 5 or 6 people. And when we look the list of leadership for almost 15 years, they came from only one state. One state. So when we raise those issues, could you imagine that year, 10, 15 people passed? Now, because it was like, this. So this is the type of society we had. And
But Murtala, to go back to some of the leaders we had, was a very charismatic leader. He had all the power. He made fantastic speeches. Yet people say that in the implementation of policies, especially on the civil service, there was a lot to be desired.
Okay, let me tell you. Maybe if you have opportunity, you go to Kaduna, you ask Ali Komiso. He's still alive.
Yes, sir, yes.
When Murtala was making appointments, 2 people, late Sandi Awuni and late Aminu Sunusi.
Ambassador Sunusi.
Ambassador Sunusi, the father of the... These were the one you mentioned so and so, and they were writing. He penciled down Aliko Muhammad because he was the most leading accountant we have in the north as governor of Central Bank. And put Adamu Chiroma, being a journalist, as managing director of Daily Times.
Chairman
of Daily Times. In a hurry, they mixed the 2 names. So when it was announced, Adamu Chiroma, governor of Central Bank. Murtala said he will not change it. See, that's what God has. That's one. Number two, Major General Akranade, because I was General Akranade, fought Murtala almost physically in the war front. Because Murtala brought some malams. Akranade said in military you don't depend on malam or bishop, or you do it on strategy. Because we lost a lot of people when we tried to cross that Asaba, the case.
The bridge.
Yes, which was a mistake. Even, for example, let me tell you, when Murtala became president, the first order he told that no governor will be driving car with what do you call them? These plenty cars.
Convoy.
Convoy. You sit down in front of your car, go to the office. One particular soldier was so anxious for his people to know that he has now reached.
Arrived.
Yes. He secretly sent the car to go and wait in front of his village so that he will come and go. But I dismissed him straight away. So there was certain thing he can do as a leader, but influence is something which I don't know how to describe it, which we can't go against, and we always,
Among the leaders who the past leader, who would you say you impressed you the most? Who was the most capable?
Well, when you say impressed, you have the two. Let me tell you, I have a great respect for Babangida. A great respect for him. There was a day a friend of mine, stole and I took him to court.
What did he steal?
He stole my papers for my house. So took him to court, but I gave him to do something. Instead, he went and do for I was in court when somebody came and said they are looking for me. And Babangida said he would not like me to. He brought the money and paid the man 1,500,000 at that time.
He gave it to you?
No, paid the man, paid me to get my paper back.
I see.
Another head of state whose name I wouldn't mention, because I was very close friend to Justice Bello. Was almost roommates, been together. So this friend, when I wrote a book of Murtala Muhammad, I wrote a book of Murtala, what I call The Betrayed Revolutionary. He bought, the book was being sold at 10 naira a copy. He bought eight copies. That means 80 naira. And he didn't have money. He didn't give him the money until he became head of state. I was talking just with some people that at least I'm proud to say that the head of state is owing me. Could you imagine within 2 hours he got information? Because the SS were working at that time, special branch. The following day, the chief of security came to my house and brought the money. And now he brought 100,000. It was a very big money enough. If there is any leader who remember his friends or even rich people who may have totally have forgotten is Babangida. That one.
Are you familiar with the current president?
Buhari?
Yes.
Yes. But I'll tell you, Buhari, my respect for him. My younger brother, Sidi and Israel. Buhari's boss was Colonel Daudu Suleiman. I know that you heard the name.
Yes.
Daudu Suleiman's wife is my sister. Sirajo went to her house. He was sick, but he fainted. Buhari was going back to Makodi. I think that time he was a captain. He was in charge of the, So he wanted to say goodbye to his son. When the wife told him he's not in, but that is Buhari took the boy to military hospital, get registered, he registered him, and sat down before the bed. His journey he did not do until the following day. And the last time I saw him, I told him, That respect remains forever in our heart. So I know this thing. Number two thing you say about Buhari, some of us who knew Buhari when he was a military head of state, we knew the changes. We knew what has taken place. And Buhari himself has said it. At that time, he was what Hausa people call Gabuka Gaminama. The decree allowed him unfair opportunity to do anything. Unlike now, you have all kinds of people do smart. See what is happening. See the reference and so on and so forth. When our friend Ahmed Gulak was killed in Imo State, the serving governor came out and said it's not IPOP, which means he knew who did the killing. You can go to him to get information. Now they have arrested the man who did the shooting, the member of IPOP.
So are you saying the security setup is not being well handled by
I'm not saying it's not well handled. The security is not as effective as those days. I work with Shua as an information officer.
General Shua?
Yes. I was one of those who covered his area when he was the chief of minister, when he was the GOC in Enugu. I knew a lot of things, how he handled this thing. You don't have that now. For example, if I have my way, anybody who has worked in the NNPC for the past 20 years should not be around. Because what defense do you have to say we cannot, none of 4 refineries is working? Apparently, they enjoy importing whatever reason. 4, none of our environment. And incidentally, it was same Buhari who even set up the refinery, and so on, when he was Minister of Petroleum. So that's one of the things I believe. Things are not, at so many areas, we are not doing well. I think, for example, the case that is going on, where somebody is said to have stolen about 80 billion. You mean nobody in the office can discover something is not going right until the level it has reached? I wish you send people to cover one of the what is called international market in Gezawa to see it. All this was not known until now. We have cases, those people should be in prison. They go to Supreme Court, they call this thing, and so on and so forth. See the cases of judges, if you read, I'm giving a copy of my book. The number of judges, for example, you see one of the people who was found $500,000. So far millions. And the lawyer was saying, hey, how could we say this man will be correct? The son who is a son of chief, former son of Alhaji of Abekuta, and son of chief justice of Nigeria. Is that the basis of why you will be honest or dishonest?
Are you hopeful that we can overcome some of these problems?
Well, I hope, but it looks very difficult. I hope it looks very difficult. That I know is very difficult.
If you have your way, who will you want to see succeeding in 2023? Who do you think will do a better job than the current government?
See, in democracy, the better job is not based on the person. It's based on the system around. Let me tell you, you know how we revere Emir of Kano? Not a particular, all emirs. The late Ado Bayero was a close friend of Dankabo. So while they were in London, a brigadier in the Nigerian army, who happened to be friend of Dankabo took him to see the Emir of Kano, late Ado Bayero. So the Emir of Kano said, when you come to Kano, you can come to my palace to see. So the man went. When he was posted, he was in his uniform and he drove to Emir's palace. The Emir was sitting in council. He was trying to be recognized. Emir did not even look at him. He asked him, he wanted Ankabo. Is he not this one who were? It's a different person you see there. If he calls you, those servants will rebuke him. Tell him Babanka did not do that. Your father did not do that. As Emir, he is being controlled by these people. They have been there. They sacrificed all their lives. So there are certain things. It's not easy to have them in position. Unfortunately. We are not saying democracy is a bad thing, it's a good thing. But democracy, you are not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. But sometimes we go to court, you hear that they say a question is they are not asking whether the man did the thing wrong or not. He did not go through the normal way, which is normal way. So this is a problem we have.
Let's discuss some of your books. You have made references to them. I'm interested in two, which I've know a little about. Your journey to Timbuktu. Did you really go to Timbuktu?
No, I didn't go to Timbuktu.
Yes.
I was a student in New York University when the Peace Corps were being sent to African countries. So they needed somebody who could give them
an idea of Africa.
Idea of this. So the Asiedu, who was the secretary to the permanent mission, suggested to one Dr. Watt, who was the head of the Afro-American Institute, that he thinks I'll be able to help. So they invited me. So I wrote a book giving them some cultural thing that will take place and so on. But that was the title of the book. But I really didn't, in fact, by that time I did not go to Timbuktu. Although I admire their leader, Modibo Keita, the first president.
What about The Power of Powers?
Well, The Power of Powers is a book I wrote in 1975, 10 years after the death of Ribadu. That book, you have a copy of the book?
I've seen it.
Okay, if you see in the middle of the book, some pages were removed. So you could see the pages do not meet. What happened was that Metamasli, late Metamasli, linked me with the then special assistant to Ribadu to give me information and so on. And I think I had the information exactly how Ribadu died. I have that information. But the government, having gone through the civil law and they didn't like something like that, the security removed section so that nobody will be blamed.
In all the copies of the book?
No, that particular section. So if you see there is no condition. But I wrote the book. Ribadu was the greatest minister we had from his time, and perhaps up to this time. Number one, Surudere.
Yes.
Surudere was a virgin land. Only some, Ribadu was the federal minister of works and decided that Lagos was getting enhanced so that they must open space. It was objected. The chief Jujuman for the Lagos royal family, called Araba of Lagos, was told that the minister said they should move to that area. He came there, used his juju that this cannot happen. Ribadu drove the caterpillar himself. He removed his babariga and started to, what today is Surulere. The permanent secretary, who happened to come from one of the Southwest states, was so sure you Ribadu, having offended the Araba of Lagos, will not see the day next day. So when he came to the office, he did not come out of the car. He was asking whether the minister has come. He told him the minister is in the office. So that's one of the fascinating things. And Ribadu knew or has something 3 times. He called the coup makers and told them, I'll let you people are arranging this. It will not bring, then they will deny it. 3 times. How he got the information, only God knows. That is,
but he was then the Minister of Defense.
It was then the Minister of Defense.
He was, yes.
So they denied. So, and what one of the things is, you see, there's a lot of things we don't want to say it because it will bring us back to what we don't want. But there are a lot of people, for example, of recent. I don't know whether you must read what is being said. People around some area, President Obi is the most favored person in Nigeria. Even himself said that he had 100 million votes in.
Which Obi is this?
The one running for
Peter Obi.
Peter Obi. These are what people tell him. And he believes it.
So you are 84 years now? And
4 days. 4 days after 84. 84 and 4 days.
4 days. How do you keep busy? What do you do now?
Well, I do some writing. And do some writing, and then that's all.
You are a rare northerner who writes. How many books have you written now?
About 19. But some are very small books. But they paid off. For example, I wrote one book, Corruption in High Society, in 1992. I sent a copy to Abacha. Could you imagine the book never reached him? But somehow, a copy went to Inspector General of Police, Kumasi. Being a relation, he's my relation. So he came. He said, Sidi, I've come to arrest you. I said, that is fantastic. I know I'm safe. Even the whole Alhaji. Then he told me about this book. Yes. Well, at the end of this thing, an ambassador was dismissed, detained. I was, at that time, the information I had was about 18 million fraud, about 8 million fraud. On their own side, when it began, it was about 30 million. So that's when I pondered, I say corruption in high places raised this issue.
So besides writing, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I have 46 grandchildren.
46?
Grandchildren. So if I'm Kano, it was a big this thing. And as I'm here, I'm in exile, I ran away. And I do some consultancy, some other areas.
How is family life for you? Are you married to have 46 grandchildren means there are many children?
No, 2 wives. One girl had 8 children. One has 6. My eldest son has 5. These are the number, not a question of the number of wives. I have 3 female daughters. Between themselves, they have about 15 children.
Your brother, Sidi Serajo, is well known to those of us in the journalism business. What do you remember about him? He was a president of the NUJ.
Yes, well, Serajo was he's not even my immediate younger brother. He follows my sister. And you know, in Hausa custom, when a woman is born, after 3 male, we call her Kande. Sarajo comes after her. And I brought him, he was with him, took him to Kaduna. And you know, Umar Diko was my closest friend. So Umar Diko was then chairman of the Radio Television Kaduna. He facilitated his appointment. Sarajo was a very brilliant man. Very, very brilliant. Because Sarajo did not go to university. He did the typing school. But he could stand against anybody, no matter what professional this is. He's well read. He reads a lot. I know that.
May God rest him, because I know he died rather young.
Yes?
Yes.
He died young. He died on 2018.
What do you think you will be remembered for? You have been through so much in Nkrumah, in Ghana, here in Nigeria, writing. What do you think history will remember you most for?
Well, I don't know exactly what people history would like to remember. Because you see, let me tell you, there are so many people we deal with, but a lot of them are fake. They tell you one thing, but they mean the other. And maybe some of us still don't know the religion we follow. We don't know if you lie, it's punishable by your maker. Sometimes we say certain things in order to get rid of somebody. Can't tell him the truth. So I don't know what people would like to know, but I know, I wish if I have the letter from the Emir of Kano, the present Emir of Kano.
The present one?
Yes. He wrote me a letter that he would like me to attend his cabinet because he know how closely I was with his father. In fact, I always have problem. He would like me to sit on the chair. I say, no, sir. I sit on the ground. When he sent me, when I wrote a book on him in 1968.
The Emir Bayero? Adu Bayero.
Yes. Adu Bayero. He requested the Etunufi to write forward. So when I took the book to Bida, Etunufi gave me a chair. I said, no, sir, I will sit. She said, no, you must say, I don't sit on the chair, but when Emir of Kano is around, it will not be fair for me to sit here. You know? So there's something like this, because if you are honest, there are certain things, because you do it somewhere, and you do different in another place, you are not being distant. And this is,
Alhaji Sidi Hamidu Ali, I'd like to thank you for granting us this interview into your long life, and I wish you also more time ahead and more books to come out of your viewers. Thank you for joining us in this edition of Reminiscences, where we spoke, as you heard, to the veteran journalist and politician and commentator Sidi Hamidu Ali. Until we meet in another program, goodbye.